Appreciate it. Under the bright lights once again, Sam. I'm going to ask Sam to introduce himself up front, and then I'll do a little bit of context, and we'll get into learning more about what Direct Line Group have been doing from a data collaboration point of view. So, Sam, if you'd like to do us the honour.
Hi everyone. Sam Taylor from Direct Line Group. So I head up the performance and CRM marketing teams. It's a new role that we've created essentially to bring all of the people in marketing that are in the engine room, the day-to-day consumer marketing engine room, all into one team, so we can deliver quick, responsive activity to drive acquisition, cross-sell retention. And in that team, we've now got data scientists, measurement specialists, which is a big move for us away from the old kind of brand marketing world where we didn't have any of that.
Yeah, and we'll dive a bit more into those kind of changing of those silos in a minute. I'm Hugh Stevens. I'm the Managing Director of LiveRamp in the UK. Pleasure to be here. Thank you all for coming to listen to us for the next 15 minutes. Really appreciated. We're literally just in the Mad Marquee there, so if you'd like to come and see us afterwards, there are things that you want to explore further, you're very welcome to come and meet the team. From a data collaboration point of view, I want to just kind of set the scene a little bit. The way that we see this is across a number of different areas. We see that actually quite a lot of the time data collaboration starts internally, and I think Sam will talk a little bit about this in a minute. It's, how do we break down the silos internally to enable data to be used much more democratized across our organizations, and also to impact many more of our marketing channels. How do we do that from the point of view of breaking down those silos, but then equally, as we're seeing the advent of retail media, commerce media, which is taking a big role on the stage, on the Digiad stage earlier today, data is playing a huge part in the way that retailers and brands are collaborating in really getting a greater understanding of who their consumers are and how they can market to them. And it's really about that sort of bond between those retailers becoming much deeper around the consumer. And then ultimately, the sort of utopia state of measurement as well. So where we can see a transaction happening, how do we make sure that that data is actually closing the loop on all of the advertising that we're placing? And really sort of measuring out what it is that we're investing in, and all of our bosses, no doubt, are asking for as well. So to that end, Sam, obviously I've given our kind of perspective as where we see collaboration across a couple of different areas, slightly leading, appreciated. But where do you see this from the point of view of Direct Line Group, and how do you see collaboration yourself?
So I think when you frame data collaboration, I think of it as sort of think of a car analogy. You think that we've got great new features in marketing now, whether it be personalization, whether it be MarTech, new channels to operate, again, new ways of trading through programmatic. And then we've got the kind of this idea of utilizing data to drive value through those channels, which is essentially the fuel that drives the car. But when you look at things like electric vehicles, whilst you've got brilliant features on a brilliant car and you've got great data to potentially to fuel it, like electric, it's the data collaboration that's missing. It's the thing that drove Tesla to success in this market was not the great features, the great fuel, or the electric vehicle. It was the fact that you could plug it in and charge it conveniently. Because when it first took off, no one bought it because there was nowhere to charge it. And people were going, I can't drive the car, it's too risky. Now we've got data collaboration, we've got that extra thing that brings the data together to help fuel marketing features, new marketing features. And I think for me, that's where we've kind of hit a pivot point where it starts to get really exciting.
So you're starting to touch on a couple of areas there. Is that really where you're seeing the excitement for you around where data can help power your business and empower the ecosystem that you operate in?
Yeah, I think it's different for different businesses, but I think for me there are three core things that make data really exciting. The first one, which is clearly we're now in an age of customer experience. Brand in the way that it has been, in a way that brand was what you say you do. Customer experience is about doing what you say you do and doing it again and again and again. That new era is fueled by data. So the fact that brands can listen to their customers before they respond, with data being the ears, brand being the voice or the mouth, that's quite a big shift we've seen, and that's really exciting. The second thing is we've seen the media landscape evolve. We're even able now to talk to customers on TV using fueled by data. So, and we are already, talking to our existing customers using traditional TV advertising channels to do that. And then the third thing is AI, and that brings it all together. Let's do that in a way that's quick, efficient, that can learn, develop, evolve, and improve. You bring all those three things together, and we're in a very different place. And I think that's what really excites me, and it's why I've spent so much time in the last couple of years putting energy into Direct Line Group and how we evolve our marketing strategy away from big kind of brand cinematic TV ads to how do we actually connect with customers in relevant times using data.
So with all that time spent and all of the kind of the planning and energy that's gone into thinking about how you evolve your sort of total marketing investment and how you bring those silos together, how is that now landing practically for you as Direct Line Group, and what are you seeing as the opportunities?
Well, I think if you look at corporates like ours, we're all victim to complicated legacy systems, and so it's always been really hard. I think we're now at a point where the MarTech has sophisticated the collaborations, so we're able to overlay that and overcome some of those challenges. And I think if you think about where successful innovations have been and growth has been in the consumer marketplace, it's been around brands, startups, scale-ups with simple tech, with no fat and overhead, actually recreating experiences for customers. And any innovation you can think of won't be product in the last 5 years, it'll be experience. It'll be, Amazon didn't invent shopping, Uber didn't invent taxis, Just Eat didn't invent takeaways, and the list goes on. It's all about recreating experiences. And I think so, and now I think there's an opportunity now with the evolution of the data and with the collaborations and using partners like LiveRamp, where we can actually play the game as well. We can get involved, even though we've got really complicated legacy systems. So that has been something that I've focused on internally at DLG. And the other thing is it's just really bloody exciting to be able to go into the CEO's office or go and talk about this new kid on the block, a new way of marketing. There is no such thing anymore as above the line and below the line. SMS and email isn't the only CRM channel anymore. And econometrics isn't the only way to measure, or attribution isn't the only way to measure anymore. There's new ways, and that just re-energizes and has re-energized our business into thinking very differently about how we do marketing.
I think that the excitement piece is obviously is key really to kind of go, okay, well, how do we actually keep not just our way that we do our media, the way that we think about creative with content, but also our teams engaged, and also learning new skills. And I think that's the critical part that I think that we're seeing, is that this is a melding of skill sets that are happening here as well. And I think that we're certainly seeing, as we've engaged with your team, this new kind of thought process happening with them as well, which has been fantastic.
It drives the whole new curiosity internally, and that's hard to get people to think. We have been in marketing a channel or a campaign specific team. When campaigns start and campaigns finish, and obviously you have to rip that all up and think differently. And the team have brought customer marketing to the forefront in the business. We've always said we're customer first or customer focused, but we haven't been really. The data really unlocks that opportunity. And a thing I talk about a lot internally is the ability now to target through the funnel in a way that we couldn't before, means actually CRM is now the center of the marketing universe, whereas it used to be brand and acquisition. And the fact is, if you can find where your value is in talking to existing customers, how to drive lifetime value, where the value, and propensity models around how you do that, you then can trigger a new way of thinking around acquisition. Because you can go, well, let's only acquire people that we know we can drive value in the CRM engine room. And then you can go, well, let's only drive awareness, brand awareness amongst people we want to acquire. Whereas half a decade ago, it was too easy, or it was more effective to waste money in broadcast media than it is to target. And now that's flipping. So now it's becoming more effective to target if you use great zero first-party data, enrich that with second-party data, match that with third-party data and deliver it to third-party channels. Suddenly you've got a different way of marketing. And I think we're just at a point now where the belief or the process in flipping that into a much more data-focused world is going to start challenging the kind of vision, the view of, it's cheaper to waste because of the cost per thousand on TV is far lower. And the whole thinking around, well, it costs 5 times more, for example, to use data to target on addressable TV. That would never have paid back given the data wasn't good enough quality. But now if you power that with great data, with good collaborations, suddenly it becomes more effective. And so that's obviously a big shift. And then you've got the kind of the agency conundrum. So what does that mean for agency partners? Do I still work with a media agency and a creative agency? And we're dealing with that now and going, what is the right mix? Does CRM become part of your media planning strategy? Does media now become different in the way that you manage your marketing infrastructure? So does creative become slave to media rather than the old world where media was slave to creative? You make your 30-second TV ad and you work out what to do with it. Now you create your media strategy and work out what creative you need. And so that's kind of flipped as well. And then obviously the last one really is it just creates new partnership opportunities. I mean, I work with data companies, I work with MarTech companies, not just with media agencies and creative agencies, and that just adds a whole new dynamic. Difficult dynamic, because working with salespeople from tech companies isn't the same. They don't understand no, in some degree, and that's quite interesting. But that whole scenario has changed, and I've spent all of my career historically in brand and then performance marketing, and I've had to spend the last 2 years pushing a different dynamic into the organisation to think differently.
I think it's great to hear that sort of that evolution happening. I think it sounds like a lot of the thought process is obviously well distilled and well well thought through, and you've got all of these opportunities ahead of you. My assumption is that hasn't just come overnight, right? So what have you seen, and what would your what would you say is important around getting started early and engaging with the right people and to get that going?
It's blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. And so, you're changing the language you have to speak internally. Wise old marketers would say, to be successful in marketing, you've got to be friends with the CFO. That is of the past. Now you've got to be friends with the CIO, the DPO, the Chief Data Officer, the Chief Information Security Officer, Head of Privacy. They're all now your friends. Whereas before, you only had to worry about commercial and the CFO. So that's massively different. And that journey has taken, I'd say it's probably taken us 2 years to get to a place where I went into my first ExCo meeting to go, we need to think about doing things differently, to where we are today. And we're only just breaking the back. We're only just starting activity now, 2 years on. And I think what I would say to a lot of people when they start thinking about data collaborations and then the new opportunities they create in marketing is that you'll come away from an event like this really excited about great case studies you've seen, and then you'll go back to your office and go, fuck that. Because it is really hard. But I'm now looking back in the rearview mirror of those 2 years, and now we're just unlocking some great opportunities, which, going to the point before, will hopefully give us, and similar with other corporates, give competitive advantage. And that's what we're here for.
I mean, even thinking about the journey of last year, similar conversation with a retailer, the journey they went on, which we're sort of 3 years into that relationship. I know that their conversations internally started well before we even we were on side with them.
Yeah, and I'll give a good example actually. One of the first conversations I had after I presented to ExCo was with the head of privacy. So we want to do this, and they're like, that's not happening. And a good friend of mine, Pete Markey, who's the CMO of Boots, he said, why don't you have a conversation with our data protection officer? And so I phoned them up and had a chat with them and said, what's your job? How does it work within Boots? And their DPO said, my job is to grow Boots. I went, well, then we've got it wrong, because my head of privacy's job is to tell me that I can't do stuff. And so we decided then to change the model, and I went to our chief customer officer and said, look, we need to bring in a new head of privacy that understands marketing. And that just changed the dynamic. But you come across those things all the way through the journey, I think, and you learn from them. And that's just an example of where people that are many people in an industry like ours who are risk averse have grown into a privacy type role aren't necessarily the partners internally that you need to drive that forwards.
Right, in the last minute, Sam, you've said and claimed lots of learnings. what are the top 3 things that you advise someone who's starting to think about what is their bridge between maybe their own channels and their media channels, and how they use data in that way in order to be more consistent in that omni-channel approach? What are your 3 pieces of advice?
Number one, we start now. Start now. And when I say start now, start thinking about the use cases that you need to help drive the different ways of working within the organisation. What value can that bring? Because if you don't start now, if you're looking 2 years down the line, you're way too late to the party. And that's really, really important. The second thing I'd say is think differently about stakeholders, influencers internally, partners, agencies, and how you work with them, and work out who it is internally that you need to partner with. Taking the CIO out for a couple of dinners is quite useful, and getting to know each other. And I did that with our CIO. Never really spoke to him before. Wasn't really part of marketing. And then obviously now we get on really, really well. And I'd say, and then connected to that one, I would say, don't talk tech. So when you go, and I made this mistake, I went to Exco and going, here's a new architecture for marketing, and they went, so what? But talk use cases, talk outcomes, because that's what makes you great marketers. And the third thing I would say is start small and then iterate. One thing that we did is we fixed. So we created, we migrated our customer database onto Snowflake into the cloud. So that was the first thing we did. We got a new CDP with Telium, which we initially used to manage all our tag management through Telium IQ. Then we broadened that out to event stream and then audience stream. And those 2 things that allowed us to then start having conversations with LiveRamp, because we've got data that we can then push into a data clean room and do collaborations. So start thinking places like that. Don't make it too complicated and make it perfect. Go, what are the things in my journey that I need to fix and when, and start small.
Great, thank you, Sam. So 3 things: start now, define your use cases, stakeholder engagement, make sure you're talking to the right people, focus on outcomes. And the third thing, I'm going to change it slightly: think big, start small, scale fast.
That sounds good to me.
I stole that from someone previously. So thank you very much for listening. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.